Happy weekend, folks, and thanks for tuning in to TVC's weekend review of major national issues. The program is called Standpoint. Now, a number of issues really struggled for space in national dailies and broadcast airwaves, but just a few actually commanded good following and interest across the land. One of those was the directive given by a federal high court sitting in Abuja on Friday that the National Publicity Secretary of the opposition People's Democratic Party, that's talking about Chief Olisa Metu, be remanded in prison custody till Tuesday pending the hearing of his bail application with respect to the charges of money laundering brought against him. Chief Metu is facing a 7-count charge of money laundering bordering on the sum of 400 million naira allegedly received from the office of immediate past National Security Advisor Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired. We were told, of course, that the money was meant for the procurement of arms for the Nigerian army to fight the Boko Haram insurgency. But some few top Nigerians diverted the fund for personal use, and that is why some of them are with the EFCC to answer questions. And now Olisa Metu has been remanded in the Kuje prisons. And another issue that was equally very popular and also commanded good following was the case of the alleged missing budget. It became a very dramatic issue, especially on the social media, with a lot of funny comments being passed here and there. And we've listened to economists, the Senate on their part, and of course the executive on their part as well, trying to tell us why the budget was missing and why the budget was not missing. Now, the question to ask is, was the budget really missing? What are the issues raised by this allegedly missing document? My panel of discussants will be helping us to attempt some of these posters, but that will be after this short break. My name is Oba Adeleye. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Steps to prevent Lassa fever include keeping your house and environment clean, covering all foods and water properly, cooking all foods thoroughly, storing foodstuffs in rodent-proof containers, blocking all rats' hideouts. Suspect that rat has eaten any food, throw it away. Avoid contact with rat secretions and excretions. Avoid drying food in the open and along roadsides. Avoid contact with blood and bloody fluids while caring for sick persons infected by the disease. Symptoms of Lassa fever include fever, general weakness and malaise. After a few days, headache, sore throat, muscle pain, chest pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, cough and abdominal pain may follow. In severe cases, bleeding from the mouth, nose and ear. As soon as you suspect Lassa fever or you have persistent fever not responding to standard treatment, report to the nearest health facility.
It's quite interesting to have you stay with us on Standpoint today, and I have in the studio with me 3 gentlemen, and together we shall be looking at the 2 issues that we raised shortly before that break. LIBOROUS OSHOMA is there with us. He's a barrister. Good afternoon. Nice to see you, LIBOROUS.
Good afternoon.
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to our viewers.
And of course, Comrade ROTIMI Adeleye is a member of the Defense Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Comrade, nice to see you.
Nice seeing you again.
Are you truly a comrade?
Well, comradeship has its own concept, and those of us that have seen ourselves on the battlefront, we know who the true comrades are.
And the man with that insignia, that logo, quote unquote now, the man with the red cap, Mr. Gbelaoba, nice to see you.
If you want to shake it.
Nice to see you again.
Pleasure's all mine, to be honest.
All right,
Thanks for the opportunity once again.
All right, then. You listened to the intro, and we have 2 issues on our radar today. First, the directive by the court, the federal court, that Chief Olisa Metu be remanded at the Kuje prison, and of course, the missing budget, which has continued to trend across our major news platforms. Let's start with the missing budget. But for me, I think it's bigger than the other story. But to set tone for the discussion, I don't know if my producer is ready. Let's just take a look at this short report that we had used in our news bulletin.
The Nigerian Senate has been bombarded with allegations that the 2016 budget recently presented by President Muhammadu Buhari had gone missing. The leadership of the Senate tried hard to downplay the story, insisting the budget was not missing. But upon constant inquiry by journalists, the Ethics Committee considered that an investigation is ongoing.
The Senate mandated my committee to look at the issue on the controversy about the 2016 budget. And the committee have met, we have still meeting. We have not concluded. We are yet doing our investigation.
We have interviewed some people so far this morning. We are continuing next few minutes to continue with our investigation. We are looking at whether it's true that the document is missing.
Opposition Senator Enyinaya Baribe of the PDP had earlier raised observations on the silence of the Senate leadership over the alleged missing budget documents during plenary.
Yesterday, in our closed session, this matter also came up. And some of us who are worried, who have been inundated by messages from our constituents, who are really worried about what their fate will be in 2016, and are asking us, where is our budget?
As you know, we're all part of the decision at closed session yesterday, and part of that decision, we're still waiting for those we had referred to carry an assignment to come back to us. And I think they will come back to us by tomorrow, and we'll go into a closed session and finish up the report, and then we'll be able to debate it properly.
Now, as I'm speaking to you, we have copies of the budget, and we will start distribution by tomorrow to the senators. And the reason why we are starting the discussion or the debate second reading next week is you just don't give a document to that voluminous document to a senator just today and you say we'll start discussion.
With the Senate leadership's contradictory statements, it is left to be seen if indeed the original budget document will be circulated or it will be a doctored version.
Liberals, let me start with you. What was your immediate reaction when you read that the budget was actually missing? I saw President Buhari when he was presenting the document to the joint session of the National Assembly on December 22nd, and the document looked voluminous, big, and bulky. How is it possible for such a mass to get missing?
Quite frankly, that what you saw was not the budget itself, but a carton. You had copies of the budget in that pack. And so, even when the president was presenting that budget, it wasn't just a copy. So it couldn't have been just a copy, because you have, say, about 5 copies in a pack, and they are presented to the National Assembly. And if you remember, the news of the missing withdrawal, it started with the budget had been withdrawn.
And this
the moment the budget, came, the public became aware of the budget. There were a lot of discussions and there were a lot of debates. Some even alleged that the budget was almost a copy and paste from the last budget, that the Office of Budget Planning didn't properly do a thorough work before presenting that budget. And thereafter, there were allegations that the budget had been withdrawn because probably it wasn't looked into before presentation. And the party in power denied, the government denied that there was no such thing. The budget was still with the National Assembly. And when the National Assembly resumed, before their resumption, it was also in the news that the budget debate was not on the agenda for the National Assembly. And some members of the Senate, some senators alleged also that they had not received copies of the document, because for you to debate the budget, you must have copies of it. And thereafter, there were allegations that, oh, the budget is missing. That is why senators had not received copies. And that went on back and forth. And then the National Assembly set up a committee. And the question you begin to ask yourself is, if the budget is truly, as the Senate Majority Leader said that they were distributing copies. If you are distributing copies of a document that is before you, that is in existence, why set up a committee to look into whether it was missing or not? And so that's where the controversy came in. And then the culmination of all of this was the statement, the tweets credited to the Senate President that there were two versions presented, one by the President, one by the Special Advisor,
Senator Itai Nang.
Senator Itai Nang. And there have been questions also as to why there will be two versions of a budget presented by the President. I read in the Punch also yesterday that the response from the boys in Senator Itai Nang's office was that copies were sent to them to distribute to the National Assembly, and they distributed. The budget didn't come from them. And and now basically the presidency is silent. Senator Garba Shehu said his response was there's a robust relationship between the executive and his legislatures and now, so they would not want these distractions. They wouldn't want to discuss these distractions so as not to be seen so the eye of the public, so that it doesn't look as if there are frictions between both arms. But basically, Nigerians would want to know. For me, also frictions between both arms. But basically, Nigerians would want to know. For me, also, I think a lot of people would want to know. The budget of a nation is the document detailing the spending, the earnings and spending of a government for a year. And if after presentation, there are modalities for withdrawal if you feel there are errors. And if after presentation, the office of the Senate President comes out to say that there is another copy that was smuggled in. I wouldn't call it missing budget, I would rather call it switching budgets. And there is another copy. And then I think it is not something we just sweep under the carpet. Heads should roll if truly, there were errors and the proper channel for withdrawing the first one was not followed. So for me, so that at the end of the day, we'll come out transparently, and then people will see that, okay, this was what truly transpired, and people that are culpable would be punished
to
serve as a deterrent
to others. Comrade, let me come to you. I don't know. I've not read anywhere in history that a national document like the budget would just get missing, either in Nigeria or elsewhere. So I don't know, what does this tell us about this present government? Before, they said some people are making attempts to withdraw the budget through the back doors, but the executive deny making such attempt. And days after, the budget got missing.
For me, Oba, you see, when you see the person that is really accosting a masquerade, shifting way and dividing taking its own part, and the masquerade taking the position of collecting the money, then you will know something is wrong somewhere. And that goes to say that all that is happening, for me, it is theatrical. And not that alone, not even at a time like this, when the people on the streets, when the so-called masses are already preparing themselves to adjust. Because we all know that change, as it were, will come with a lot of adjustment. Now that not a time like this when the budget has been read and people out there are preparing to adjust. If you are spending this much money, considering what is coming out now, how do you want to manage yourself so that you can fit in and so that we can all put hands on decks to achieve the expected Nigeria, the kind of nation that we want? This is not that kind of a time. So two issues on the ground. The issue of whether there are two versions and the issue of whether it's truly missing. And for me, it looks, much as it looks theatrical, it also looks rhythm. There's a rhythm. After the reggae, play the blues. You know, there's a rhythm going on. And they just have to come out in the true sense of it to let us know whether they are chopping the gala or something else is happening after chopping the gala. That means, for me, I know for the people out there, based on human rights, they are not happy. And something has to be done quick and urgent.
All right, Balaba, what's your reaction to this?
It's unfortunate, very unfortunate. And so very unfortunate because we are in a state of recession. So many people out there are hard up. So many businesses are closing shop. And for the leadership of Nigeria, and especially the leadership of APC, I'm beginning to be disillusioned as somebody who supported APC, to be honest with you, to come to power. There is gross irresponsibility across the board in this leadership. And I want to say, and some people may not like it, from even unexpected quarters to the expected quarters, there are some incontrovertible facts now in the public sphere. The president went to the joint session of the National Assembly and he presented a synoptic version of the budget. Subsequent, like in all polities, subsequent to the official presentation of the president, various officers of state, strategic officers of state whose jobs are related to the budget came out with a more detailed version. The president subsequently granted interview to some media men. He had a media chart. It is now obvious that he made some gaffe. He made some gaffes in the media chart. He politely lambasted the members of the National Assembly for wanting to use 4-point-something billion to buy vehicles. Subsequent to the interview, the National Assembly also, and some supporters of the members of the National Assembly came out and said, you know what, if the National Assembly with 460-something officers could be spending 4-point-something billion or 4.6 to buy cars, what about the presidency with just 2 principal officers wanting to use 3.6 billion to buy cars for some officers of the presidency? Why is it that the presidency also has budgeted 380-something million for Aso Rock Wildlife? I don't suppose the biggest zoological garden in Nigeria is in Aso Rock. I want to juxtapose the Aso Rock's zoological garden with that of the University of Ibadan or some that I know across Nigeria. Why is it that the presidency too is using 189 million to just change tires of the vehicles they have now? And you know what? I am an executive director in one of the best known auto maintenance and repair workshops, chains of auto maintenance and repair workshops in Nigeria. The presidency budgeted 30 million naira to buy toolboxes and jacks. And we set up more than 50 Nigerian youngsters, graduates, as auto maintenance and repair entrepreneurs across this country. Now, when all those ones came into light, somebody just remembered in the presidency that what the president said, specifically at the media chart, relative to the facts in the budget proposal are somewhat inconsistent. And there are some things in the budget that were inconsistent. There are mechanisms through which the budget could either be retrieved, amended through an official letter, or indeed because the party of the president commands the majority in the two chambers.
Why is it difficult for the executive to follow that process?
In the two chambers of the National Assembly. So the leader of the Senate could ordinarily, while officially presenting the executive bill, also say there's an addendum from this thing.
But why do you think there's...
None of those mechanisms were used. None of those mechanisms were used. We just know as we speak now that another incontrovertible fact is that there are two versions of
the budget proposal in the upper chamber of the National Assembly. In the upper chamber. Now, somebody must have submitted that second inconsistent version.
The pirated copy.
And to be honest with you, that also originated from the presidency.
The two versions from the same source.
The presidency has not denied it. They went to Itaenang after Senator Saraki looked straight into the camera and accused him of wanting to trick the Senate to using a version that was inconsistent. And when they went to Itaenang, he did not deny it. He said he didn't want to pick issues.
So does it mean that the presidency actually made effort to withdraw the budget in the first instance?
Those are speculations that I don't know.
All of that are speculations. For me, sincerely, there are responsibilities and questions to be answered on the two parts. Listing arguments to exonerate the Senate does not come in here.
Nobody is exonerating the Senate. I'm not the Senate.
I know. But
the House of Reps, House of Representatives claims they have their copy intact. I think the problem now is with the Senate.
So that's where that's why I came up earlier with that proverbial saying that when by the time that person accosting that masquerade now decided to leave the masquerade alone, there will be so many other things that will follow. That's why I said after the reggae, you now have to play the blues, because there are so many things that are on. There are so many underplay and interplay that are going on. We have not been able to really have our hands on the facts and the truth, and except if the two leadership. But what I have as a kind of a warning, caution, sending to the Senate is the fact that the populists are not ready for jokes. We are not ready for drama, because we have all sat down to see that we need a new country, we need a new Nigeria, and we are all adjusting, going by the analysis that budget, the reality the budget has brought to us. So this is not a time they shouldn't come out and pick responsibility up and say this is what is on ground, and that is where we may have another issue of crisis coming up on the side of the people.
Now, from the perspective of the law, we have two versions now, allegedly from the same source. Which version do we believe?
Oba, you see, basically, I really don't want to concern myself whether there are other plays. Whether they are underplays or whether there is a masquerade somewhere, it's immaterial to the average Nigerian. What is obvious is that a budget was presented by the president.
Fact.
He's statutorily empowered to do that. And in the course of trying to deliberate on the budget, copies were made of another document purporting to be the budget submitted by the president, distributed, and it took the ego eye of certain persons to say, no, we have two documents here. The one presented by the president is different. The one we have now is a different document. If you read Soludo's statement yesterday, he said that he basically believes all of this is happening because to a very large extent, the budget was like a copy and paste document from the old budget. And if you're saying tighten your belts,
I think my producer has that video. Maybe when the time comes, we'll just listen.
If you're saying tighten your belts, if you're saying tighten your belt, and yet you look at the spending of government, both arms of government, and then it does not reflect, the recession we are in. It's still ostentatious spending, and then it's part of the value of money. You look at the recurrent for 2015 and you look at the recurrent for 2016. You find out that the recurrent for 2016 is higher than that of 2015. And then the average man who's not an economic, who will not be looking at the value of money at that time, would say, well, it's just a year apart. What is happening here? I think that's what Bola tried to, break down for us to see that somebody somewhere didn't do his homework very well. Didn't do his job, and then in the course of debates in the public domain, it came to light, it came to fore that, there's a mistake somewhere. there are channels. If you do a letter, if you do a document to the National Assembly, and there are needs for amendment or addendum, there are channels for doing that. You can, because also, I think what basically is happening now, we still have not gotten over the hangover of the election. We still see ourselves as, oh, it's a campaign period where you see, you know, both parties at loggerheads. And so any mistake by one part will be magnified by the other. And that's politics for you.
Some are already calling for the impeachment of
exactly,
Mr.
because
President.
if you notice,
where the question is now.
Let me finish, sorry. For me, we have not gotten to the stage of impeachment, and all, but it is their right to call for. If you remember, in the last dispensation, this was the job of the APC that they were in opposition then. They won't spare you.
The table has turned.
The table had turned now. So I expect them to sit up. If you remember, during the presidential campaign period of the presidential election, during the Ronald Reagan time, Ronald Reagan knew that at 70-something, his health status, just like John McCain, was going to be an issue in the campaign. And so what did he do? You make it a public document before the campaign. And here, I had expected also, you know, the moment people said, oh, the budget had been withdrawn, and if you truly knew that there were discrepancies and there were amendments that you needed to do, you take the official route. Eat the humble pie and say, yes, we actually, no ban is above mistake. We made mistake, we are withdrawing it, so we're able to make amendment. But it has not been told us, we have not been informed that there were attempts to amend.
We've not seen the breakdown of the budget.
As much as
we've read the highlights.
Okay. On this very platform, and even on a number of national platforms, when SARAKI emerged as the Senate President and most people were celebrating it, exactly. I said Buhari made a strategic error that will haunt him for the rest of his presidency.
And it has started.
Yes.
He ain't seen nothing
yet. It started long ago, not now.
He ain't seen nothing yet. I'm telling you, the man is a very naive politician, and he does not respect those who know how to play the game around him. Politician, and he does not respect those who know how to play the game around him.
You mean that's SARAKI, the Senate President?
I'm Mr. President. And you know what? He ain't seen nothing yet.
Well,
let's get to the brass knuckle fact.
The match is just starting.
Well, yeah, the brass knuckle fact as we speak now.
This is the reggae. You will hear the blues.
As we speak now, the Senate, which I once said on this very same platform too, that is a hybridized form of opposition.
Yes.
To the presidency.
And you labeled it APDP.
And I labeled it APDP. APDP is gradually removing its cloak now, and they will face a president who is an APC change agent president. And it's about time those who are serving this president up their game. I am seeing across the board, even as far as EFCC, where a courageous act is being done now because of the nature of the president. I am seeing professionals playing under par and allowing people to stigmatize Mr. President. Look, somebody said a couple of days ago that when they gave Olisame Metu's statement to him, he thought it, he wanted to eat it. And I was telling that person, a journalist like you, I said, have you read the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015? In the Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, there is a section that says that all such investigating interrogations must be done electronically. You are telling me that this EFCC is somebody thinks is manipulating the press from this EFCC. He listens to a statement. People around the president, from strategic officers, his kitchen cabinet, to ministers, and to strategic heads of agencies, are dropping the ball, and they are dropping it big time. You know what? The fervor and the joy of this look into corruption, at a point, we cease when people are hungry. And you know, recession is at stake. So somebody has to wake up.
Comrade, I've not seen the breakdown of the budget, but we have, I think the moment Mr. President presented the document, we saw a kind of synopsis of what the budget looks like. And for someone like a former central bank governor that's talking about Professor Charles Soludo, to say the budget is like copy and paste, like in cyber lingo, they will say Control C, Control C, Control V.
It was supposed to be zero-based for budgeting.
Let's listen to what Soludo actually said and the reaction of the vice president that's talking about Professor, okay, two professors here, Professor Yemi Osinbajo.
It's likely a missed opportunity, and in my view, likely more of the same. Yes, it contains some tinkling, some good innovative ideas, tinkling at the margins here and there in terms of programming. And I applaud the government on employment of 500,000 teachers, free education for some selected sectors, and fighting corruption and all of that. Wonderful. A couple of innovative ideas there, which I applaud. I also appreciate the haste with which this was prepared. But the budget remains slightly minuscule. I see some people describe it as expansionary. No, it is not. As a percentage of GDP, because you have to scale it. It's not in nominal terms. The nominal GDP has gone from 90-something to 100-something projected for a year. So if you scale your budget as a percentage of GDP, it's not any different from the previous budget. It's still 5 point little thing of GDP, not expansionary for an economy in a state in which we are.
Despite all of our GDP growth figures, somehow or the other, we just, the poverty numbers continue to increase. So my sense is that unless we're able to address those questions, first of all directly, not as a matter of compassion, but as a matter of economic survival, because really, if you have 110 million poor people, and you are extremely poor people, and you don't have some kind of social protection or social investment, we are merely waiting for doomsday. We are waiting for doomsday because how quickly can the economy generate what is required to answer to the problems of these very poor people?
Professor Yemi Osinbajo and Professor Charles Soludo, former CBN governor, discussing the disparity, so to say, according to Soludo, in the budget. According to him, this budget is just Control C, Control V from the previous administration, copy and paste.
Well, coming from the background of his analysis, which is what has played up at the beginning of the whole administration, where the SARAKIs of this world and its courts are really not really prepared to give in to this so-called change, we are going to see so much of more drama, like he mentioned. But for me, it's obvious we need that aspect of the social security. The people out there, at a time like this when there's extreme poverty, you see, you can't say all of these things are cut and paste, but that's a function of, again, that's another function of the fact that we're coming from somewhere. The politics, the economic politics that is being played, it's from somewhere. It's view, and the view of the vice president, we know from which of the ends they are all coming from, to justify and to let the people at in the public domain know that, okay, we are really ready for the change, and the other people saying, okay, they are making mess of the whole process. But this is what I'm telling you. If this particular administration has taken their time to say, okay, let's sit down to look at those that are fed fat on the teeming population that are poor, and trying to look at the treasury aspect of the leakages in maritime, the leakages in oil and gas, the leakages in communication. If they do all of that and they are able to block it through the anti-corruption campaign, I'm telling you, the better it is for the people on the streets, because this is the people who have often before now been on a very large scale of poverty at the extreme end. So the battle, you see, where the battle comes back to the people is when we will really see it, that this change is really something that is called for, and it does not really that much need agents. The people themselves will be the agents when the time comes. We all are witness to the subsidy riot. So when it gets there, they will come out and give us the facts and figures behind what they want to defend and how they want to defend it. And the way this issue of budget that is basically is going on now, but we still have the fact that House of Rep is still telling us we have it. Has anybody looked into that? Has anybody looked into that?
In the face of this ensuing drama, how soon would you expect this budget to be passed? Do you think?
For me, Oba, I listened to Chukwuma Soludo and Professor Yomi Osibanjo, two people I respect a lot. Soludo, when he took a swipe at Okonjo-Iweala, it was fantastic, lovely.
Everybody applauded him.
Everybody applauded him. Also, now the same Soludo is drawing our attention to some salient issues in the budget. For me, I think we should also take it, on our stride.
And applaud him too.
And applaud him. Which is why we are having this controversy of switching, missing, and all of that. What we should basically be telling Nigerians is, for me, I felt first and foremost disappointed that ordinarily this is supposed to be a one-party thing. So if there are issues, like Bola said,
it's APDP.
Yes, if there are issues.
APDP is not one party.
No. Wait. We need to tell ourselves the truth. When Saraki and co left PDP to join APC, we applauded them, didn't we?
No.
And they were received with both hands.
Yes.
As I speak now, people are still being received into this fold. And so let's not create distractions. And so when Saraki emerged as the Senate president, Bola is here on this same platform. We did say that, look, the president was naive. If you say you don't want to be involved, nobody's saying be involved. It's called lobbying. You lobby. Because if you believe in...
Most of when you have people who could do it for you without even you...
If you believe in a paradigm shift...
them in the lodge.
If you believe in a paradigm shift, and you're going to... if you understand the position, the status of the National Assembly in the passage of laws...
Especially the Senate.
Then you would lobby
of officers.
For whoever emerges should be on the same ideological platform with you. But when that didn't happen, and now you have this issue, knowing fully well that the man you have there also, has his eye on the ball. You do it properly. You do it right. So that you don't expose your inadequacies too much for your enemies. Most especially now that a lot of people also see, the role that the Senate is playing in all of this. And so, now directly to your question. With this, I really don't see a sudden end to the debates. There are still going to be issues raised. Or maybe, if they do it well, maybe call for, a caucus meeting, a roundtable talk, where some of these issues will be ironed out. And then, Nigerians would, because Nigerians are waiting. This is the only country where we will wait for the budget for anything to be done. and so, when you look at it from that point of view, Nigerians are tired of these dramas. Basically, they want to see what they actually voted for. They want to see that change. They want to feel, to some extent, good governance. And the earlier the government starts, the better. And one of the greatest mistakes, some of us that were saying, the president could appoint ministers whenever. One of the greatest problems with the delay in appointing ministers, showed in this budget. Ministers were appointed barely 6 weeks before the budget presentation, and you can see what if the ministers were appointed earlier, they probably would have input in the budget, and then would be excused all of this copy and paste, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, according to you.
All right, Libros, we have our first caller on the line. George is calling from IKEJA. Hello, George.
Good afternoon, Mr. David.
Yeah, good afternoon.
There's one question I want to ask.
Okay, go ahead, please.
If there are 2 or 3 versions of the budget, don't the versions remain a draft? Is the responsibility of the National Assembly to look at a draft and come out with what they think is ideal for the country. Why all the views about draft 1, draft 2, and draft 3? It only tells me that they probably do not know what they are doing. Let me tell you, Mr. Derry, no budget is missing. All these things, they are just doing it to strangle the president. It's a corruption strike back, I dare say. Because, look at them. If the budget was presented in a joint session, one arm of the assembly is saying, we have it, our own is not distorted. The other one says, no, our own is distorted. What is at play is that this is the first budget in 15 years that is not a budget of conspiracy and sharing. When we have a budget, at the end of the year, you check and discover is 20, 23, 20, at the highest, 29% performance. And no 1 naira is returned to the pot. That is how budgets have been. And they have seen that this one is not like that. All those budgets for cars, budget for this, budget for that, they are seeing that they will be next to.
Hello, George.
Lost it.
All right.
Quickly, sorry, Bola. Quickly, a budget, statutorily, the president is empowered to present the budget. Any other copy is not a draft. Any other copy, it's not the budget. So we should get that straight.
And let me follow up on that. You see, the greatest source of respect for Mr. President as at today is not his intellectual persona, is not his ability to play politics the dirty way we know it is played in this polity now. The greatest source of respect for Mr. President is his larger-than-life moral public persona. Now, if you're talking of a man who has built much capital on being a person of morality, when somebody in his office does something like the Senate has alleged against Itaenang now, I'm not saying he should sack Itaenang, he should move him to the Ministry of Motor Resources.
Women Affairs.
And women, I'll bring somebody in. Because the issue of integrity is at stake as we speak.
Let's quickly pick this call, then I'll come back to you. Ayo is calling from Lagos. Hello, Ayo. Thanks for joining us on Standpoint.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ayo.
I want to say one or two things. One, there is so much politics in the air. And the president needs to carefully relook and rejig his immediate cabinet. There is economic policy. There is also what you can call political politics. Now, look at a lot of things are being done to decimate the position of the presidency. And it's obvious to anybody that is a careful listener and a careful watcher of what is happening in Nigeria. If this corruption fight was go on, then the president needs to carefully watch. Even Soludo and all the people coming in to say one thing or the other, he needs to look at what they are saying on the face of it. Let it not also be because they discredited the whole regime and they were thinking that they'll be beneficiaries of this regime. And then they are using catchy words, copy it and paste and all that and all that. I'm a financial person. I read finance about the same time when Soludo read finance, when he read the Nsuka. And the literacy of that budget, even though I've not seen all the details, you can't just come out and say, you copy and paste. There are a lot of areas, like even from what you said, where there are paradigm shifts. So how could you put a political summary and say copy and paste? And then if you are talking of 2 years and you are saying that what significantly has happened when you begin to talk of ratios. Between last year And this year, that you begin to look at gross domestic product and all the other things he was mentioning, and you look at the figures, and in parentheses, you begin to make such
okay. All right, thank you for the contribution. I interrupted Bola. You react to it, but let Bola quickly bring it up.
See, I will conclude by saying that all Ajegbedo was naturally with one ikura.
For non-Yoruba speakers.
I will try something. I will try a transliteration. You see, when I was growing up in Mushin, we used to say, when we want to get into a public this thing, we say, you can't spoil my bad name. So instead of you spoiling my bad name, I will reel out all the bad things about myself before I lay at you. This Senate, how many characters in this present Senate can compare with the larger-than-life moral stature of the president? But you know what? There are 1,000 ways to kill an elephant. For me, as a Nigerian, first, before a supporter of Buhari, this transaction of the budget issue is a little stigma. This Senate will keep on, I don't know about the House of Rep, this Senate will keep on orchestrating such mischiefs at the president. It behoves the president now to call all his officers. We must do things by the book.
And the strong men of his party.
We must do...
Exactly.
Most of the strong men, he seemed to have jettisoned. He will run to some of them eventually. I'm talking here and I know what I'm talking. But you know what? At least to start with, those of you who are working with me, let's do things by the book, because there are mischief makers who are watching us, and they will make a fanfare of any error of judgment, either innocent or otherwise.
Now,
you want to quickly react to it?
Yes. Now I'm happy at where he's actually tilting the submissions to. That the presidency... Okay,
you were unhappy with him before.
No, because we need to really get the issue. Now, the presidency has to be aware of the fact that what they have on their hands is white calabash. And there are people out there that want it either broken or tainted. And such that whatever they want to do now, that under the heaven has relations, whether it's having relationship to do, anything to do with the Senate or anywhere, must be thorough. It must be thoroughly done. And away from that, let me now say that the issue, the comments of the last caller, it's very fantastic, because when we talk about all those analyses that SOLUDO, the same SOLUDO that he said he screwed together with, looking at it from the past regime, it's the same demand, the same analysis of demand and supply. But nobody has ever sat down to look at the logical reasoning behind, is this thing, does it work for us here? Oftentimes, it is, except if we want to lie to ourselves. Sincerely, let me tell you, Oba, you see, the forces that determines all those demand and supply in this part of the world, 30% of it is what is right. The 70% of it is often governed by greed and speculative forces.
All right, comrade, let's take a departure from this issue and take a look at
before you take a departure, the truth is that ideologically, this budget ideologically is different from all the past budgets. Ideologically, you see a budget that is
maybe the former CBN governor, maybe he's talking about...
I don't want to get into personality.
He's not talking about the ideology, maybe he's talking about the content.
We see a budget that is tilted at raising people from down up, empowering, apart from the 500,000 teachers to be employed, SMEs are to be invested upon. If they use the welfare package in the budget to incentivize skills acquisition and self-employment, this society will be positively.
Okay. Before we move to the arms deal story, let's quickly take Segun. He's calling from Ogun State. Hello, Segun. Good afternoon.
Good morning, gentlemen. The budget, missing, switched, whatever name you choose to call it. If a spade was to be called a spade, I lay the blame first at the doorstep of the presidency. President Buhari should realize that those who come to equity
must come with a clean
hands. is fighting corruption. It needs to tilt the surrounding a little bit. The surrounding will determine how successful you fight against corruption will be. If it doesn't tilt the surroundings, it will be messed up. I'm not saying it should remove SARAKI, but it needs to work on the Senate.
All right,
he has made that mistake.
All right,
if
Segun.
it doesn't work on his environment, it will mess the whole thing up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Segun, calling from Ogun State. Now, we read in the papers, we heard in the news that the spokesperson of the former ruling party, now opposition People's Democratic Party, has been asked to be remanded at the Kuje prisons. This is it used to be one of the powerful Nigerians, and here we are, be remanded at Kuje prison. At least nobody will be talking about Mr. President not respecting the rule of law here. The FCC has taken him to court, and the court has made a pronouncement.
Basically, let's get issues. In every clime, the law is no respecter of person. It is the strict enforcement of laws that build societies.
Oh, yes.
Irrespective of your status. That is why in America or in London you hear that, oh, this celebrity was charged for drunk driving or for beating traffic lights. As minor as these offenses are, not to talk of when there's allegation of money laundering and misappropriation. And then one beautiful thing that the judge did that we're not talking about, we are dwelling on the fact that, oh, he's remanded in prison pending his bail application, which is normal in every case. The defense counsel wanted to move the application orally, and the judge said no. If you have documents you will need to tender, you can't tender these documents from the bar. You will need to come with a formal application. But there was something germane, and the court still recognized the fact that this accused person is presumed innocent. And he said, okay, come before me on Tuesday. He abridged time for parties to file applications and response. And then he said something, and I am going to, once I start hearing, and I'm going to hear this matter every day. These are what we should be asking for. Accelerated hearing in matters of this nature. We are fixated on, oh, bail, or is remanded and all of that. These offenses, naturally, by virtue of the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, are bailable, depending on the argument of your defense counsel.
Yes.
And so, but if at the end of the day, you don't want a situation where the accused is on bail, and then for the next 5 years, you are prosecuting just one matter. And so that is why, for me, I am very happy when I heard Justice Abang say, once I start hearing, I am going to hear the matter every day. And so we should be looking at, in less than a month, you are done with the case.
Maximum 3 months.
And then judgment is pronounced. And then people will say, yes, the court had made a pronouncement on the matter. And so, unlike where you hear a matter, you take preliminary applications, and then the next thing, you adjourn for 3 months because the man is on bail. That is why, for me, I think these are what Nigerians should be asking for. This is what the FCC should be asking for. Accelerated hearing in matters that are before the court.
And then you get done with the case. Yeah. Okay, Comrade, let me come to you.
For me, it's a nice thing that we are seeing. And I'll tell you, looking at it from the human rights angle, and looking at it from the human rights angle, I think it is time that we now need to begin to weigh the effect of crime committed on the mass populace and weigh it side by side, disregarding the status of the man that has committed the crime. Not saying because the man is so or whoever the person might be. But
in the face of the law, everybody is equal.
Equality before the law. So looking at it, at the suffering and the magnitude of how the crime has affected those that are the commoners. And because the commoners are the ones, you know.
Okay, but
my final take is this.
Okay.
You know what? The criminal justice infrastructure transcends the court.
Okay.
we are over fixated on the court.
On the court. We have the prison there.
The degree of diligence,
investigation.
The degree of diligence invested in investigation will help the degree of diligence, will help the work of the prosecutors. The prosecutorial level too is a part of the criminal justice infrastructure. So when you have investigation and the investigators and the prosecutors doing their work right, you are beginning to see judges that are ready now to countenance.
All right, gentlemen, I must thank you very sincerely for coming on the show. It's been a nice time with you. LIBOROUS, Comrade, and Bolaba. Nice to see you. Hope to see you soon. And that's our package for this week. We know you enjoyed it. Join us again next week for another episode of Standpoint. My name is Oba Adeleye.